This is my Chapter 3, Understanding the Community Profile for my community, which is Manhattan, Kansas. And so I'm going to be talking about Manhattan and Riley County and what goes on within my area. Understanding the customs and traditions of our community, I think that a lot of the people who know where Manhattan is know about it because of Kansas State University. The college here is probably what puts it on the map for most people. Another unique characteristic here, though, is the proximity to Fort Riley, and the number of people who come to the community because of being based at that military base. Beyond that, our community is really growing quite a bit and has over the past decade or so in particular, and it's growing a lot as a retail center, so people come here from other areas. There's been a lot of development. Another thing that's going to impact us is the construction of a new national bio and agro-defense facility, and that's something that's going to spur even further growth, or is predicted to. As far as our schools go, we have several long-term administrators, some of them who have been with the district for a number of years, and that's probably a strength that we have. We also have a pretty good reputation as far as our successes and our achievements in a lot of different areas, and that's something that's a positive as well. Our mascot at Manhattan High School, there's only one high school in town, and the mascot, and has been for the past century, is the Indians. And that's something that we've had to work through a little bit because there is some controversy that can be associated with that sometimes. So we have some really specific parameters about what can and can't be done with the mascot, and we try to be as sensitive as we can be to that issue. And so far it's been working well for us. I feel like it's more of a benefit because of the tradition to leave it rather than to try to change it to something else. Regarding our population characteristics, the university faculty and the staff there and the business professionals in our town, because of the increasing businesses that we have here, probably do a little bit to skew the education level and the income level of people in our community. The people who move here because of the military base, it probably brings sort of a combination because there are a lot of the young, less educated service people who come here and live, and their children go to school in our district. But then there are also the leaders, the officers who are based at Fort Riley, who live in this community, or their children live here, and so we see the benefit of their higher education and their definitely higher income levels. Manhattan really has a history as a small town, even with the size of the university that we had here. It sort of had a little bit of a rural image. K-State is known as an ag school, so that lends itself to that too. The recent population increase has brought on a lot of things like a lot of franchises and chain businesses who finally have come to this community because the population has reached a certain level. For some people, that's a real positive, and they like the fact that they can come here for that retail experience. But for some other people, they feel like that it has actually changed the community away from that small town feel, and they don't like it as much. In addition, we've had this influx of a really diverse population, so that means there's a broader mix of races and cultures and religions, and that really has melded together very well, and it's kind of a seamless process, and it's actually a benefit to the community. When it comes to communication channels that exist in our town, as far as local media is concerned, there's one large daily newspaper and there's one small weekly newspaper that are based specifically here in Manhattan. There are several local radio stations, and they're actually kind of like a lot of communities divided up to where there are three main companies that own the radio stations. One of those is exclusively news talk, so that's kind of a benefit to our community that a lot of information is relayed that way. The television picture is not quite the same, though it's not as localized. There are two stations in the nearby market that overlap this area, but they're not actually based here in Manhattan. Those each provide one local reporter who's based in Manhattan and covers Manhattan, kind of Fort Riley sort of news for that community. That could change a little bit. According to one of the advisory group members from my Career and Technical Education advisory group based at the college, and said that one of those stations was recently bought out, and it's prompted some conversations and negotiations with the university that might end up meaning that there's going to be a local nightly newscast that will come directly from Manhattan, possibly within the next year, but so far that has not happened yet. The school communications include a cable channel and then the school website, and that cable channel mostly right now relays Board of Education meetings. There are a lot of slideshow kinds of things that say calendar events that are coming up. Within the communications department, there's not a lot of opposition to the idea of running other content, things that are generated by faculty or generated by students, if there's something that is actually of the quality and the content topic that would make it relevant to the outside audience. It's just there's not a lot of effort that's been made in that direction so far. My teaching partner who does the broadcast half of my AV communications pathway is looking at how she can create a newscast or something that would be of interest to the population, and it would probably go on that cable channel as well. Regarding foreign language things, ESL is surprisingly low. Our community is basically largely English speaking. So there are some kids, very few kids in our ESL program, like at the high school, for example. So there's not a lot of foreign language media in our community right now, just because there's not really a population that demands that. To know the groups in our community, I think we probably have all the usual political and professional organizations for a population of this size. One thing that's a little bit different is with all the military families in town, there are some support groups that focus specifically on the needs of that population. Our civic organizations tend to combine all the basic service groups, fundraising kind of groups. There are some special interest ones related to hobbies or activities or whatever. We've got the basic, usual slate of religious affiliation kind of organizations. And then there are some social groups that support specific populations and their issues. At the school level, the related groups include a parent-teacher organization for the whole district, and then there are parent-teacher work groups within all of the schools, like the elementary schools. And then we also have, at the high school level at least, some content-specific parental and community support groups. So, for example, our performing arts area, there's a specific PTO that does fundraising and promotes their activities that really help specifically with that. And then the same thing happens within some of our sports and other activities, that there's a group of parents who work specifically for those areas. Overall, I would say that our region and our state are very conservative, but probably because of that military and college influence on our community, it broadens the experience being here in Manhattan. Regarding our leadership, I think the political leadership bodies in Manhattan, really, there's not a lot of controversy surrounding them. Our county commission, our city commission, our board of education, they all tend to work together pretty well whenever the occasion comes up. At least we don't hear about a lot of controversy between them. I think they get along fairly well. At an educational level, our board of education is mostly collaborative. Actually, several of the members of it are alumni of our schools, and that helps because they have a real interest in making sure that there's quality there. Some of our board members, actually, recent board members as well as current board members, have had additional political aspirations. For example, we have one newly elected member of our board who is part of a push to establish a new political party in the state of Kansas that would be a moderate party. So it'll be interesting to see how that proceeds. To know the characteristics of our community leaders, I think that the growth in our community has really increased the professionalism. The growth has been because of professional interests. It's another asset to our community that the university is here because there are leadership programs, leadership skills, courses. They offer mediation and services where they moderate things. They help with professional development kinds of opportunities, and that's a benefit to the groups within our community that are working on issues that relate to all of our population. Our community leaders really seem to respect their counterparts. They work well together when it's necessary, and we don't hear a lot about problems between them. So we consider that no news is probably really good news, I guess. To know the economic conditions, I found some statistics related to the census and some other stats too. Our demographics include a 16% population increase between 2000 and 2010. And that population is 83.5% white, 5.5% black, 5.1% Asian, and 5.8% Latino. That's as of the 2010 census. Other stats say that there were, between 2000 and 2010, there were 4,000 new living units that were constructed or had received permits over that 10-year time. And also, I found a stat that said that there was an increase of nearly 2,500 students enrolled at K-State over the past 12 years. So there are definitely things that are growing. Department of Labor Statistics, I found a report that showed an increase of 5,273 jobs. That's a 23% increase between 2002 and 2012, and it's the second highest increase in Kansas. Relevant to our schools specifically, the census, the 2010 census, showed an increase of 1,311 children ages 0 to 19 between the 2000 census and the 2010 census. So that's a 10% increase in the kids within our school system. The median income for our county is $32,042. And then I also found out that about 4% of our county receives supplemental nutrition assistance. That's 3,181 people. And that 4% is a little bit less than the state average of 4.4%, which is probably a good thing. To know our political structure, It's probably no surprise to anybody that Kansas is a very red state. For example, in the 2012 election, there was only one county that voted completely blue, not Riley County. Both of our U.S. senators are Republicans. Our district representative is a Republican. The governor is Republican. State representative for this area, for the Manhattan area, is Republican. But our state senator is a Democrat. And then at the county level, all three of our commissioners are also Republicans. So there's a lot of Republican leadership in our state. When you get down to the city and the Board of Education level, though, the parties are pretty mixed, and that means a little bit more support for education from the Democrat side, which is a nice thing, I guess. Our high school population was higher 10 years ago, and then we went through a few years where there was a little bit of a decrease in the population among the high school, but not necessarily the other grades, if that makes sense. It dropped by a few thousand, but we're now seeing that's turned and there's an increase in the population again, which can mean that there's more revenue. You know, the per pupil amount that we receive is definitely increasing, but it also means more need. So having some Democrats at that Board of Education level and who can help with making sure that we get the funding we need is a good thing. Regarding social tensions, we live in a pretty nice town. Our school population is quite diverse, which is in part, again, thanks to those military families and the university families, but we have very few racial tension kinds of issues, almost no gang problem. There's a little bit of a reference sometimes in Manhattan, especially being here over the summer, to the townies versus the college residents, but it's more tongue-in-cheek, and it's not really something that causes a lot of strife or a lot of tension between the groups. By and large, the different cultures and social classes and races and religions that have come to Manhattan that are causing the increase in population here really meld together very well, and it's actually seen as a benefit that actually attracts some people to our community. So that's a good thing.